Okay, welcome everybody. We're on what is this? Yud Avrohom base towards the bottom. So the Mishnah spoke about this to backtrack a little bit. The Mishnah spoken about a common denominator between get and shichrur. That according to Rameh, there's a common denominator that when you give a get or a shichrur to a shliach, so it's considered detriment to be divorced or to be liberated, and therefore the shliach cannot be zocha. Even if and the way the Gemara came out yesterday, the Gemara talked about it. The master agreed to that the shliach could be zocha if he wanted to. That's how the Gemara comes out. That the master said tain kaschi. He said the master or the husband is willing that the shliach should accept it and be zocha right away for the wife or for the eved. But the question is it considered a source of hope? Everybody agrees that the get is considered a hope for the woman. She loses out because she loses parnasa, even whatever other issues there are. But that's as long as there's something that she's definitely considered a loss, so it's considered a hope. And by the evidence of machlokes, that's what the Mishnah spoke about. The May holds that it's a hope also. That's going to be the discussion. The Mishnah says that according to Rabbanan, it's not a hope. This was about losing parnasa. That's going to be today's sugya. That the Mishnah seems to say that according to Rameir, anyway, even if he's an eved, he also doesn't have to give him parnasa, so he doesn't lose out by becoming free. Because even as an eved, also he doesn't have to get parnasa from the master. The woman, as long as she's married, she gets parnasa. When she gets divorced, she doesn't get parnasa, so she loses out. So everybody agrees that the woman getting divorced is considered a chov, and the shliach cannot be zocha for the get on his own because in chavan the melo b'panav. But as far as the evidence, machlokes if it's considered a chov or a schus, that's going to be today's sugya. We didn't go into that yesterday yet. So, but the Gemara did go into was how the master was the master allowing them to be mizocha. We just said the Mishnah. We just said the pshat, and the Mishnah would be yes, that if the master have wanted that the shliach should be zocha, then there's no question. It doesn't start off. And the Gemara says the reason is because tofas l'bachov that the shliach wouldn't be able to grab away, so to speak, the shtar shikra from the master because it's causing him a loss. He's going to lose his eved. More or less, that was yesterday's Gemara. We just gave a practical application that if somebody cannot save a seat for somebody, cannot reserve a seat for somebody else because you only have a supposed to get your seat. You don't have a supposed to get two seats. And now the first person comes down, he wants to sit down. He has a right to sit down. And then he say, no, I reserved for somebody else. So let's go. The person who comes first has the right to get a seat. The one who comes second has the right to get a seat. So they're all balichovas. So you can't take from one balachov on the cheshbon of somebody else. So that's how we pass. That's to point out. This is how we pass. Like a Yochanan, you can't take for somebody if it causes somebody else to lose. Means that is a malva and a lova. So you would be allowed to grab from the lova in order to give it to the malva. But if there are two malvim, if there are two creditors. So if you take away the money from the debtor and you give it to one of the creditors, the other creditor loses out. So you're not allowed to do a favor to somebody in somebody else's cheshbon, on the cheshbon of the other creditor. So that's how it came out yesterday. That was the end of the Gemara. Today, let's go a little bit further. There's a small Gemara about that, which is very similar to the case about reserving a seat. And we're on Yud Avrohom the base, 6 lines in the bottom. And it starts with the parentheses. That's the Gemara here. Banu, the machlokes of Allah Rabbanan. He just said now that Rabbi Yochanan said, you can't take for a creditor if it's going to cause a different creditor to lose out. And now if Krista thinks that he has a machlokes about it, it says in the Mishnah that Mishnah and Peah, the Tanan, Mishnah Likir is a Peah, Omar Reza Leploni Ani. Peah is available for all aniyim. Anybody's allowed to come and take Peah. Peah means you leave 60th at the edge of your field. We just had it together with Shtei Lechem. It says right together with the mission with the mitzvah of Shtei Lechem. It says also about leaving pay. So that's issa to cut off the end of the field, and who's allowed to take it? Any poor person. So somebody comes who's not poor, and he wants to take it. For somebody, he wants to be zocha for somebody. There are a lot of poor people. Everyone's taking pay, and he comes. He says, "I'm reserving this for a certain ani. Let's say it's relative, whatever it might be." So is he allowed to do that? So it's very similar to our case about Tofas Labalchov, he's taking for one ani, but the other ani are losing out. Are you allowed to do that? So it seems to be a machlokes, and therefore Chutza says that this issue we're talking about seems to be a machlokes. Somebody collected pay, Omar raised the ploni on it, and he said, "This is hereby Bizocha for Mr. Ploni the ani." So does it work or not? He could do that. And say no, give it to the first time you comes first. You have no right to reserve it. So no right to reserve. So Rabbanan says yes. So Rabbanan say not. So our issue seems to be machlokes of Rabbanan and Rabbanan. Nice case we spoke about reserving a seat. It's the same thing. That is, everybody's allowed to come and get it. Same as the old anim allowed. Can you reserve it for somebody? So Rabbanan says yes. So Rabbanan say not. But the Gemara says now that it's not. The Gemara can say a pshat to say that it's not necessarily dependent on this machlokes. We can learn the Mishnah over there differently. Amar Amein B'Vitem Rapapa, top of the page, top of the base. Maybe it's not similar. I call the Kamra Abulaz Hasam Ela the Migu. The boy Mafle and the next day Baba Ani B'Chazile and Migu the Zachil the Nafshi Zachil the Chavri. Avalachalo that you could say Abulaz really holds that Tofas L'Bachov the Mokum Shachav Lachem Lokana. You can't reserve for somebody else on somebody else's cheshbon. Because you don't have a right to take another seat. Let's say the case of the seats. You have a right to get one seat, you don't have a right to get two seats. But let's say we said yesterday, you have a right to save one seat and then give it to somebody else. Yes, because you have a right. You have a right. Your seat. So here they want to say that by pay, let's say, for instance, a poor person. Can a poor person reserve for another poor person? If he's a rich person, so then they want to thought you're not allowed to take it. So you're taking it for somebody else, and you're doing it on the cheshbon of the other aniyim. But the Gemara is saying, how about if it would be a poor person? A poor person could take for himself. So then he could, since he could take for himself, he can give for somebody else also.
He can take as much as he wants for himself?
Yes.
Oh, so he can take as much as he wants for his own house.
Yes, but because you have a right to do it. But now the Gemara is saying that there's another knech over here, that even if he's not poor, he could make himself poor. Everybody has the ability to make themselves poor. To get rich, no. Get rich is a lot of, not all, but everybody has not so simple. But everybody has the option of making themselves poor, because even if they're very rich, they can say in 1 second, I disown all my property. So he becomes automatically an ani, and then he's eligible for payah. So that's called a migu, that he has the right, he has the ability to do that, even though he didn't do it. Even though he didn't actually disown all of his property, but he has a shaykhis to this payah, because if he wants to, he'd be able to disown his property and become an ani. And if he'd be an ani, he'd be able to get for somebody else, because I'm allowed to take for myself, I can take for somebody else. So it could be that's the only reason why Rabbi Lezer holds over here that he could be zocha for another ani, even if he's rich, because he has these double migu. Let's read it inside, top line. Only here in this case does Rabbi Lezer say that he could be zocha because of migu, and another two migus. One migu is if he wants to, he can disown all of his property and it can become poor, and it'll be fitting for him. He'd be able to take it himself because he's a poor person, is eligible to take payah, and he can make himself poor. And step number two, migu the zachil leilin avshei zachil lechavre. Since he could be zocha for himself, he definitely has the right to be zocha for somebody else. It's only a rich person that doesn't have the right. Yeah, but he was saying that he has a migu that he can become poor. It's a double migu. If he's poor, then surely he can take for somebody else. Even if he's rich, he has a double migu, right?
A poor person can zoche for another poor person
because he can be zoche for himself. That's not contradicting the so tofas l'bachov v'makom shechav lachem. I cannot if there's a debtor with two creditors, so I cannot take for one of the creditors because I'm losing out. I'm making the other creditor lose. What if I'm also a creditor? I'm a creditor. He owes me money also, but right now I want to give it for a different creditor. So I could, because if I want to, I could take for myself. You can't have time to send me. I'm doing it on somebody else's cheshbon. For myself, I'm allowed to take.
I see.
So since I can take myself, I can take for somebody else, even though somebody else is losing out, because I have a right to take for myself. So here, if you be a poor person, you would be able to take for another poor person. The chiddush is that even though I'm not poor, I can make myself poor. That's enough. The fact that I have the potential to be poor, that makes me have the power. I have the power to be zocheh for somebody else.
The general premise.
Right. Unless it could hold of the general premise that tofas l'bachov lo kana, that I can't be zocheh for somebody else if it's somebody else's detriment. But here I could because I have a right to get it for myself. So therefore, no, he does not prove that Rabbi holds against Rabbi Yochanan. And the Gemara goes the other way also. There, Ad Khan, fourth line. Ad Khan lo kamri abanan hasam elo d'chsiv lo salakate le'ani. That's a drash. Really, it says laket kitzecha lo salakate kama. Really, it says a capital comma over here. That's to make it. But the Pashup shot is Leket kitzecha lo zalakeh, comma, take a big breath. Laniv lager tazo bosam. It says don't take the leket or the pay or whatever and leave it for the poor. But since it says it all together, so we could, for the drash purposes, we could erase the comma and you read it together. Lo zalakeh lo ani. Don't gather for a poor person. A special pasuk. Lo zalakeh lo ani. Don't gather for the poor. A special pasuk that it's against the regular. Could be really we hold Tavas Lachov Mavshachav Lacherim is yes kana. Maybe a person could grab for somebody else over here because you have the migu. But a special pasuk, a special drash that says don't collect for the poor. Each person should come for himself. Don't bring for somebody else. It could even be that even a poor person maybe is not allowed, according to this drash, maybe even a poor person is not allowed to collect for somebody else. Each person has to go on his own. Don't collect for the poor. Let the poor collect for themselves. Maybe otherwise he would say that Tavas Lachov Mavshachav Lacherim is kona. So the Gemara says that this Mishnah that seemingly is mamash our subject about Tofas L'Bachov and Makom Shechav L'Acherim is not a raya, not this way, not that way. We could be both ways. The Gemara stands off the kasha, that ends off the drasha, that if you hold the sleeve drasha, Los Laket Lo Ani, what is Rabbi Elazar going to do with that drasha? He doesn't learn this halacha that you can't collect somebody else. He knows you could collect somebody else. So what does he do with this drasha? A different drasha. That poor person also has to leave paya. If a poor person happens to have paya, a leket shikha, that's a small field. He's still poor. He's under the red line. What is the word?
Under the poverty line.
Under the poverty line, but he still has some property. So he also has to leave leket and paya. And that's another
on his
own. That so if Elazar holds that the pasuk I'll use for something else. You could collect paya from one field, from somebody else's field. You could collect paya for a different ani. He doesn't know that the drush of Los Laket Lani, but the drush of Los Laket Lani is coming to tell you that the ani also has this halacha that he should allow other ani to come to his field. So that's the end of the parentheses, end of the sugya. It came out. Halacha we passed like a Yochanan, lo kana. So I asked Machavrusa, what does he think about a seed for a son? He also didn't know any heta. Like like is a son different? A son, a brother, family member, a father. Are you allowed to save a seed for somebody else? There's no more heta.
No, we're all talking about when you didn't pay for the seed. If you pay
if you pay for the seed, then it's yours. Then you have the right. The horror, unless they say that it's only a right for you, not that you could give it over, discuss to somebody else. Sometimes they make these things that you only have a non-transferable. Like you only could use it for yourself. If you come, you have a right to sit there, but you can't give it to somebody else. Then you have to ask the gabbai what the conditions are over there. That's the end of the sugya, and that's why we pass him that you can't be zocha for somebody on the loss of somebody else. Okay, new Mishnah. Back to the Mishnah. So it says in the Mishnah that a mayor and the Rabbanan, they discuss if the Eved is losing out by getting free. And a woman is solely losing out because she loses Parnasa. And the Eved is a question if it's considered a loss to get free. Rabbi says it's how does it go? Which one is Rabbi? Rabbi says they're both in a makam, and it's also considered a loss, right? Rabbi says that it's considered a loss for a detriment for the Eved to get free. And Rabbanan say why? By the woman she loses Parnasa, but by the Eved she doesn't lose Parnasa because he doesn't have to give him Parnasa even when he's an Eved. So he didn't lose by becoming free. That's as far as the Mishnah. That's more or less the Mishnah. The Mishnah goes into Truma then, but as far as our sugi now, we can stop here. So that's what the Mishnah said. He could not support his Eved even while he's an Eved. Even while he is his Eved, he doesn't have to support him.
He can't let him die.
Oh, so that's going to be the sugi.
right.
The Mishnah says he doesn't have to support us. There's no chiyuv for a master to support his Eved. There is a chiyuv for a husband.
Where's he going to get?
So where to get food from? So there are two choices how to learn the Mishnah. That's going to be the whole subject of the Gemara. It says in the Mishnah that everybody agrees with Meir Rabbanan that he couldn't tell his Eved, I'm not going to support you. My wife, you can't. Wife, you have to support. So she loses out by getting divorced. But the Eved, seemingly, he's not losing out by being freed because even when he's an Eved, also the master can say, I don't want to support you. The whole issue of the Gemara is going to say, what does that mean? He could say, I'm not going to support you, but you don't have to work for me. It means the work that you'll be doing for me, take it for yourself to support yourself. That you could hear.
What is that?
Work. How much do you need a day for food? $10. So the first $10 that you work is yours. Use it for your lunch. Use it for food. The rest of it is going to be mine. That you could hear. That you could be masking. master could tell us, David, I'm not supporting you, but work. And the work that you
Go to
do,
work in the supermarket.
yeah,
Get some money.
all the work you do is mine. But then I would have to pay you, I have to
So
feed
we'll
you.
deduct,
So I'm not
So
gonna
instead of
feed you.
me
I'm not, I don't know, I'm not gonna feed you.
we'll deduct
You-
some of your work.
Right, all the,
for you to
you work
earn.
money, right, earn money. And then, of course, more than the $10 is gonna go to me, I'm the master. But whatever you need for food, take off your work.
So why don't we say that with the wife?
You can't, well, that's
Yes,
gonna
we
be,
can. We can say, look, I won't take the payroll. I mean, what is it, something about,
your earning.
I won't take the payroll and I won't feed you. So he can say the same thing.
So that's gonna be the, you sold to the Gemara already, we'll speak it out, and I'll say, no, he can't, because she says, I can't make $10 a day, I only can make $5 a day. So we'll tell the husband, you must support her. If she could support her Maisi Yadayim, if her earnings support her, so then fine, you could tell her that she should use her earnings for her support, but if she not, then you're responsible to feed
It's
her.
assumed that an Eved could make enough.
Not assuming, even if that's gonna be the question, even if he can't, the Evid says to the master, but I can't make
can't only
$10, I only make $5. So it's not my
Tough.
business, go to the sucker like anybody else, like I'm responsible to feed you.
I see, that's the difference.
That's the gonna be the difference.
Okay,
There's another way to learn, that the master has the right to tell the Eved, I'm not gonna support you and you're gonna work for me. And the question was, he's gonna die. He says, no, so go to the tzedakah.
go to tzedakah.
And you don't have any money because as much as you're gonna work, you make $100 a day, but that all belongs to me. And I don't have any responsibility to support you. Maybe it'll be a nice thing to do. And maybe it's a smart thing to do because you want to have a strong Eved, you want to give him good food, he should be strong and work hard. But if a person technically, you could say, I'm not responsible to support you, you're responsible to work for me, so you work for me, I'm not going to feed you, and you have a problem you have to eat, so go get stuck in. Those are the two choices of the Gemara. So the Mishnah doesn't go into the detail. The Mishnah says that the master doesn't have to support his slave, but it doesn't say, but does he have to give him from his own earnings at least? That doesn't say. That's going to be the Gemara's discussion. That's today's segment. So it says in the Mishnah, Shem Yitzeh Shalol Lozen es Avdo Rishai. So first the Gemara takes the side that he doesn't have to give him any support and he could get all of his work. Shamas Bino Yachal Rav Lo Molev Daseim Yibeni Zancha. Do you see from our Mishnah that the master could tell to the slave, work for me, and I'm not going to support you. It means all the work goes to me, and I don't have to support you. And you have no money. Rashi says, go beg by the doors. Does see Rashi over here?
What was the end of that?
Azar
The
Lav
end of
Shachan.
Zancha.
I say me, Veni Zancha. Do with me, it means work for me, and I'm not going to support you.
Say you mean the ends of.
I say me, Veni Zancha. That's going to be one side, that he doesn't have to support him, even though all the work, all the earnings go to the master. And where's he going to eat? So Rashi fills it in, he'll go to the beg by the doors. That's one side. But the Gemara rejects the proof. You don't see it right from our Mishnah. You could say it's talking about deduct from your work as much as you need for food. Spend your earnings for your food. That's the other side. That's going to be juggling the whole back and forth. It means that this for sure, this minimum for sure you could do. He surely could tell his Eved that use your earnings for your food. But the question is, could he even say your earnings come to me and no food? That's going to be the question. The pink over here, that's going to be the question if it's possible to prove that. And each time the Gemara is going to try to deflect it that you can't do that. But of course, you could say spend your earnings for your support, for your food. That's going to be the question. But the Gemara is going to try to explain the Mishnah this way and see if it works. If so, the Mishnah said the difference between an Eved and an Isha. So the Eved, he could tell him, spend your money, your earnings for your food. If so, by a woman also, he should be able to tell her that. This is Mamash Lev Yaakov's question. If so, and the woman should be the same thing. It means saying that an Eved, he can tell him, use your money, use your earnings for your food. So by a woman also, he should be able to tell her, spend your earnings for your food. Why not? The Gemara says, tell you why not. Isha, but the low safka. The case would be if she can't suffice, that maybe her earnings don't suffice her support. So then the husband cannot tell her. So if so, the Eved also, Eved nami with the low suffix. The slave also, if he doesn't have enough to suffice, it doesn't suffice his earnings for his support. Could the master tell him, I'm not going to support you? So I would think, yeah, like, why should I? What's the problem? The Gemara says a fancy answer. Taisus asks why the Gemara is so fancy. The Gemara is going to say a fancy answer, why you can't say that. But I would have asked, and Taisus asked the Kasha, that what's the most Kasha? Yeah, you could tell an Eved, use your earnings for your support. If you can't support yourself, so that's my business. I'm not more muhiv than any other Jew to support poor people. You're a poor person. I'm telling you, you don't have to work for me. Your work all goes for your support. And he says, I don't make enough. Okay, so go to the tzedakah. I'm not sure what the Gemara's kash is, but the Gemara says a fancy answer. Here goes the expression: Avda the Nahom Kreise Lo Shavia Lemore Ulamarte Lemaim Boy. Eved, a slave, who the bread of his stomach he's not worth, means he can't even support himself. He works the whole day and he doesn't even make enough to feed himself. What does the master or the mistress need him for? It means he's not an Eved. You can tell the master that he has an Eved and he has to support him, and the support costs more than the income. What is that worth? That's not a good machine. You have a machine that it costs more to feed, then the gas costs more than, so you're not making any money. So that's not, so you're not, so in other words, you're not mechuyev to support your Eved if he can't even cover his support. So the Gemara says it in fancy words. I would have just said, I'm not even at that lumdus. I would have said the whole that you're not mechuyev to support your Eved. Why should you be mechuyev to support your Eved? But the Gemara says it fancier. Taisus explains. I don't know what Taisus says, but that's the more or less the Gemara. So that was the first Gemara that comes in because of our Mishnah. Now we're ready, free to roam. Means as far as our Mishnah, we don't see in the Mishnah either way. You could say that he doesn't have to support him. He surely doesn't have to support him. The question is, could he take the earnings also? One side is that he could take the earnings, and the other side is he can't take the earnings. He has to at least give him enough from the earnings that he should be able to support himself. So from our Mishnah, you don't see. And I think we're going to go on the cruise once we're here ready to figure out any place else. If we know the halacha, get a master tell us Eved, say me ben yizamcha, work and don't, and I'm not going to support you and go collect stuff. Even if he could make it, he makes a lot of money, makes $100 a day. I want all the $100 and you don't get anything and go big. That's the most question. From our Mishnah, you don't see. Now we're going to go looking for other proofs. Tashma, maybe a proof on this next raya. It says, Eved should go to Lori Miklat. Eved that went to exile to the cities of refuge. He killed B'Shogeg. He also has to go to Lori Miklat. And the Rav is someplace else, whatever. We'll see soon why he talks about Lori Miklat. The L'chara doesn't have anything to do with Lori Miklat. And Rabbi Chayv Lazono. The master doesn't have to support him over there in Lori Miklat. He doesn't have to send him food. Not only doesn't have to support him, but he works there in Lori Miklat. He works, and the earnings go to the master. It says l'chara b'ferish that the earnings go to the master, and the master doesn't support him. You seem to see from here a right to our question that the master could tell his Eved, work, your earnings go to me, and I don't support you. That's what it says. Question why it says Lori Miklat. Right away we have to ask the question, why does it say that? The Gemara will deal with it soon. But again, the Gemara is going to deflect it, that it's talking about that he does take off of his earnings as much as he needs for the food. The case will be that the master says, spend your earnings for your food. But the question is, doesn't say that. It says, it says that the master doesn't have to support him and the earnings go to the master. So you can't say, it says, don't say that the master is saying, use the earnings for your support. It says in the Bryce of Farish that the earnings go to the master. What does the Bryce mean to say that the earnings go to the master? If he makes more than he needs for his food, like the case would be $10, so the $10 goes for your food, and the rest goes to me. That goes without saying. Why should the Eved keep more than he needs for his food? Rashi explains that what's going to happen on the day that he can't cover his expenses. It means $10 a day for food. Usually he makes enough. Some days he doesn't. Some days he only makes $8, and the master doesn't have to support him. Right? We said that even according to the lenient side, that he does have to give him his expenses from his earnings. But if he doesn't make it, that's not my business. Go to tzedakah. I'm not going to have to support. What if one day he makes $12, one day he makes $8? Could the Eved say, I want to keep it for a rainy day? Today I made $12. So really the extra $2 should go to you. But some days I'm not going to make $10 and you're not going to have to give me, and I'm going to, so let me at least, you do it day by day, give me the extra money in the account, what's it called, escrow or something like that, that on the day that I need it, I should be able to withdraw from there. So you say no, each day is a day by itself. On the day that he makes more than he needs, the master gets it. On the day he makes less than he needs, he loses out and he has to collect tzedakah. That's the Gemara's answer. Just read inside, on the day that he doesn't make enough. He doesn't have enough to support himself. That day he made only $8. The master doesn't have to give him. So you might think, even when he makes extra, the master shouldn't take it away. Let him keep it to that rainy day. Kamash Malan, he doesn't have to. So the Gemara deflected the proof that you thought that it says here that the master gets the earnings and he doesn't have to support, but not necessarily. He does have to tell the Eved, you could take off your support from the earnings. But anything extra goes to me. Now the Gemara says, why does it say Ori Miklat? If the whole halacha is true, no difference if it's an Ori Miklat or not. Even if he's home, it'd be the same halacha. Well, why does the Brisa talk about the cities of refuge? It should be the same halacha even if he'd be home. First white line, V'choi. It says, when it says to go to Ori Miklat, it says he goes to Ori Miklat and he should live over there. The first shot is he should live means that he's safe from the relatives who want to kill him. But the drash over here, V'choi, make sure that he's able to live. Avid lechi yusat fei. Give him a good support. You might think that there is an extra chiyuv that the master should support the Eved more than a regular Eved. Kamash Malan, that he doesn't have to. So we got through the Brisa. We thought that as a proof that we didn't finish the Brisa yet. That's going to be the continuation. But so far, the beginning, it says that an Eved who went to Ori Miklat means even Ori Miklat, where there's more chiyuv to support him. Because it says V'choi, you're not mechuyev to. The master doesn't have to support him, and also the Ma'aseh Adaim can go to the master. Either we wanted to see from here that he takes all the Ma'aseh Adaim, and the Gemara's matcha, maybe not all the Ma'aseh Adaim, maybe just besides after deducting the food that the Eved is allowed to take for himself. So it's no proof to our issue. First white line. The Brisa continues. But the Seifa of that Brisa continues. The Brisa contrasts a woman to an Eved. The same way in our Mishnah, there's a contrast of a woman and an Eved. Also over there, a woman who killed B'shogeg, she also has to go to Ori Miklat, and the husband does have to support her. So it says an Eved, the master does not have to support, and a woman, the husband does have to support. What's it talking about? Is she working? Could she cover her earning? Could her earnings cover her support? Same thing over again as before. Michlal de lo amala. It must be talking about that he didn't tell her use your earnings. Why did you have to support her? Let him tell her work over there in Ori Miklat, then you'll be able to eat off of your earnings. The amala bala my chayiv. If the husband told her you could use your earnings for your support, so why should the husband have to support her? And therefore, with the sefer de lo amala, reishanami de lo amale, the case of the Eved is similar to the case of the woman. The Brisa is contrasting the Eved and the woman. The woman, we say, must be talking about that she's not taking off her earnings, or else the husband should be able to tell her, use your earnings for your support. And if the case is that he did not tell her, so the case of Eved also he did not tell him, and he's keeping all. The Gemara wants us to try to push that the Brisa says by Eved he can keep the earnings even though he's not supporting him. But the Gemara says no, same thing as before. Go back, Mamash same as the first Torah says before, that the case will be that the woman is not able to support herself. She does work. The husband tells her work and eat off of your earnings for your support. But she said, I don't make enough. I only make $5. So the husband has to support. Mashenkin the Eved, he doesn't have to. But militani safe of him, the Reisha, the law, the Brisa says beferish that if you continue the Brisa says that if your husband told her use your support, your earnings for your support, she's allowed to. That means it's talking about that she could support herself, and if it's talking about even the ratio where you cannot tell the woman is talking about when he did not say Tzim Maseh Yadayich, and the Eved, even if he did not say Tzim Maseh Yadayich, also he cannot. The Gemara is pushing the Brisa. The first round of the Brisa seems to say that the master could tell the Eved, say me ben Izanch, I'm not going to support you, and your earnings go to me. But the Gemara still says the same thing, it keeps to the same dichoy. That if she does make enough food, she is able to cover her expenses, then the husband's allowed to tell her, use your money, use your earnings for your support. Mm-hmm. But here the Gemara has a problem with that. Remember, there's no chiddush that if she's making enough money, that he could tell her to use your money for your support. No, there's a chiddush. You might think that the honor of a woman is that she should be in the indoors, and
she should not be working.
Right. So Rashi explains that in her own city, there's no such thing. Always a husband could say, "See, my shidduch was on the side." There's a special thing in Ori Miklat. Ori Miklat, she's in a new place. She doesn't know anybody. If she's going to have to work, she's going to have to go out. That's not considered tsanua for a woman. And maybe you might think that he doesn't have a right to tell her to work over there in the Ori Miklat. Kamash Malan that he does. So that's the end of that. Right? Just to do it over again. The Gemara is aiming to find if a master could tell to his Eved, "Asay mi ben izancha," he surely could tell him, I mean, surely the master could tell his Eved, use your earnings for your support. That surely he could do. The question is if he could tell him, I'm not going to support you, and I'm going to take all your earnings come to me. That's the whole sugya. And the Gemara is again matcha that all it says over here is that he doesn't have to support him, but it could be that he does have to let him take off of his earnings their support. And the chidushim over here, the Gemara said that even though some days he doesn't make enough, so he wants to save it for a rainy day. No, you can't do that. The master has a right today. You made extra money. I'm allowed to take it on the day that you're going to make too little. I don't have to support you. The Gemara compares it to a woman. The Bryce over there compares it to a woman. And the Gemara comes out that by woman, that also the case of the husband that he has to support her is only if she doesn't have enough, she doesn't make enough money. And the Bryce that speaks out that if she does make enough money, the husband does have a right to tell her. It's a chiddush over there, even though it's not the best thing for her in a foreign city that she's going to have to start working. It's not comfortable for her. Still, he has the right to say that. But still, the Gemara didn't prove about say me beni zancha. Can a master tell his Eved, work for me, and I'm not, and all the money goes to me, and I'm not going to support you and get stuck on. That the Gemara still didn't prove. The Gemara goes further. The Gemara thinks that it found the Bryce that it seems to be a machlokes, this issue of a master could tell his Eved, I say me beni zancha. Let's say it seems to be a machlokes tanom. It says, Rav Shimon Gamliel Omer, Yochal Eved Lomo L'Rabo, B'shnei B'tzoros, O Parnaseni, O Osiani L'Cherus. A slave could tell his master in a famine year, a year of famine, B'tzoros is a famine. In a year of famine, we'll see soon why it talks about a famine. Oh, either support me or free me. He has a right, he can give the rabbi ultimatum. I'm your slave. Either support me. If you don't want to support me, it's a free me. The that he has the option what he wants to do. He doesn't have to free him, and also he doesn't have to free him, and he doesn't have to support him. So it seems that he's saying, I say, even he's on my love is the machlok is not his case. The Marasav that Rav Shimon Gamliel holds that you cannot say work, and I'm not going to support. He's not supporting him. It seems that in the state of service, he's not supporting him. He doesn't have what to give him, and therefore wants to go free. So the master could say, you have to work for me, and you have no food. It's a problem, but that's not my problem. And Rav Shimon Gamliel says that you can't say, I say me beni zancha, so you have no food, so you have to free me. But the Gemara says, it doesn't sound like that. With his bro, if the ultimatum is because he says that you have to either give me food or give me my earnings, he should have said that. He shouldn't say either give me my food or free me. He should have said either give me my food or let me use my own earnings for my food. But that's the issue about saying me beni zancha or not. So the words don't sound like that. Why still what a famine here? This could be, if you say the way you're learning, machlokes, if the master could say, work for me and I'm not going to support you, so it should have said it in any year, not after a famine year. So therefore it's not going to prove, and we're going to say what the Bryce is. The third time, each time the Gemara is marked the same way. That it's talking about that he said in the famine years, he said, support yourself. Work and take your money, your earnings for your own support. So what's the issue? Everyone's told you allowed to do that. And during the famine years, he doesn't make enough. He's not able to make enough. So what's the issue? He said, everybody else you can do that. Everybody says that you can tell your Eved, I'm not going to support you, earn yourself. And if you can't afford it, you can't make it. So you can't make it. I'm not going to support you more than you can work. Like you're not worth your own, you don't cover your own expenses. I'm not going to support you. Why should there be an issue over here? No, there is an issue. That you're right, that you don't have to support me. And usually you could say, in a regular year, you could say, use your earnings for your support. And if you don't make enough, so go to tzedakah. But here there's a problem. On the Shnei B'Tzoros there's a problem that there's no food here. Nobody has any food. So now when people come to beg, so they give preference to the Bnei Chorin before they give to the Eved. The Eved is like a second class. He's not as much as a Jew. So the Jews are not, if they have only enough money to support a Jew or an Eved, they're going to give it to the Jew. They're not going to give it to the Eved Kanani. So therefore, the Eved Kanani has a time to the master that free me, because if you don't free me, I'm not going to be able to get supported. Usually, there's no time. Usually, an Eved Kanani also gets supported by the people just as much as a Jew. This is enough money for everybody. He goes to the tzedakah, and he says, I also need tzedakah, we'll give him also. But it's not enough, then surely the Jews go first. So that's why, after the Shnei B'Tzoros, the Eved has a time to the master, either support me And if you can't, and I can't support myself either, don't tell you can't just tell me go get stuff. They're not going to give me what?
And I can
I can't get stuff. So
How do you
free
see
me
the words there?
in order that people should see me and have Rahmanas on me. Means that now that I'm an Eved, they see me and they don't have Rahmanas because the Jews go first. So make me a free man. I'll also be Jewish and they'll also give me. But Rabbanan Sabri, Man the Merachim Abinei Chori, Eved Nami, Yochumi Merachim. The Rabbanan say that people don't distinguish between the Eved and the free man. The ones who are going to have Rahmanas on the free man, they're going to have Rahmanas on the Eved also. They don't distinguish and they're going to give everybody. I don't know what the halach is as far as tzedakah, it's kedima, but here it seems to be the machlokes. If the Eved has a taina that I'm not going to get stuck if I'm an Eved. So still, the Gemara is still each time the Gemara deflects the proof, and we've brought three rayas, one of the Mishnah, then a Brisa, and then and we didn't find anything yet. We didn't find anybody that holds you can say Asay maybe any zancha. I'm sorry. Bnei Chori is Bnei Chorin.
What's I mean? Oh, children. Okay,
People that are free people.
Oh, yeah.
I Eved Nami Ruchum Merachim. They're also going to have Rahmanas on the Eved also. So there's no time to free me. The master says you'll get stuck also, like anybody else. The Reb Shimon Gamliel says you won't get as much stuck, and the free people will go on line first, and the Eved's not going to be enough for him. So he says you have to free me. If you don't have money, if you don't have support for me, free me. And Rabbanan say you can go on the stuck line like anybody else. It doesn't make a difference if you're an Eved or a Ben Chorin. So the Gemara still didn't prove it, and there's nobody was found to say beferish that a master could say to his Eved, "I say me beni zancha. Your work goes to me, and I'm not going to support you." We didn't find such a shit yet. For sure, he could say that for sure the master could say, spend your money, spend your earnings on your food, and if you don't have enough, I'm not muchayt back more than anybody else. If you have extra, then what goes to me. But there's no proof about saying Hasemi Beni Zamcha. Now the Gemara is going to Amoram. Still not we're doing a Mishnah, Brisa, but now we go to Amoram. And we want to find if an Amora said an opinion about it. Tashma Damar Rav. So Rav is an Amora, it's not a Mishnah, not a Brisa, Rav. Rav said, Amatish de Avdo. Somebody sanctified, he consecrated the hands of his Eved. So now whatever it works, it goes to Hektish. So he can't make any food. He can't make any support for himself because whatever he does goes to Hektish. So what's going to be with the Eved? How's he going to eat? So Rav said, also Eved, Lova Vocha, Vosa Pareya. The Eved should borrow money in order to be able to eat. And then he works to pay back the lenders. The Gemara is going to talk about the details of that. But right now what the Gemara wants is, how could he do that? How could the master consecrate? He has to pay back the lender. He borrows money in order to eat, and then he owes the money back. Then he's going to work and he's going to pay back. The Gemara is going to ask, how could he do that? If he works, the work goes to Hektish. So that was his problem in the first place. But the Gemara is, before all those details, what did it say? That the master consecrated his slave's hands, which means he has no way of supporting himself. And how does the Eved eat? So it says he has eight how to eat. He's going to borrow money to eat, and whatever the eight is going to be. But if the master
bankrupt very quickly because he's not, because everything he does with his hands goes to.
No, so it says that's the problem. We're not. Let's put in parentheses. Let's put in parentheses. We'll get to that later. How is he going to pay back? But right now it says that the master is not supporting him. The master consecrated his hands. And everything is going to work is going to become hektish. So he can't. Has a problem. How's he going to eat? The Rav says how he's going to eat. He should borrow money, and we'll figure out later on how he's going to pay back. But how could the master do that if the master has no right to make him work and not support him? So how could he do maktish day avdo? Here it says that he could consecrate his slave's hands, and he's not supporting him. The master should be supporting him. If you hold that the master cannot take his earnings. Here he took his earnings. He took all of his earnings. So the master has to support him. And here it says he doesn't have to. It says he has to go borrow money in order to eat. That means that the master took his earnings and is not supporting him. That's why the case. I'm saying me beni zancha. Work with me, work for me, and I'm not going to support you. That's saying me beni zancha. I have a right from here that Rav holds, not a brisa, but Rav holds that the master can sell to the Eved that you have to work for me and I'm not going to support you and get stuck. And here he's going to borrow however he's going to figure it out. But you see, the master doesn't have to support him. So once again, the Gemara is going to get out of it. He does have to support him. The master has to support him. But it says not only that, it says he borrows.
It should go up to whom?
I don't know what the word mala means, but the master is giving him food. We would say benosing lomazonos. I don't know why it uses the word mala. He raises to him food. I don't know what it means. It means what?
He brings it up.
Brings it up.
The slave lives on the second floor.
Okay. The question is why we talk about such a case. But it means that the master has to give him food. So it doesn't say that. It says that he borrows money. He borrows money in order to. That's what the Gemara says. What do you mean that he gives him food? Why is he borrowing money in order to eat if the master is giving him food? Ahmed base. If he wants more extra food, he wants more than the master gives. The master doesn't give him food, but he wants extra food. He wants more than the rations that the master is giving him.
The big eater.
He's a big eater.
Yeah.
He wants more than for that. He has to borrow. How come he has a right to borrow and Hektish is going to lose out? The same way till now he ate whatever the master gave him. Before the master said this, and he had to get, then all the earnings went to the master. And here we're saying that Hektish, Hektish is happy that he should get extra food. Till now he didn't get extra food. So now also he shouldn't get extra food. The Gemara answers, Hektish Avdei. That Hektish is happy that he should become stronger. I guess he could do that also maybe under his man also maybe. Why is Hektish happier than the master? The master doesn't want you to be extra strong, extra food, extra strong, and Hektish is happy.
The master would do it if he was working for him and he's getting his
He would give him extra food. He would give him extra food, but here he's only giving him minimum food because it's not coming to him. He's not getting the work. But Hektish is happy. Hektish is the new boss. He's the one, the new employer who's getting his work. So they're happy. The same way the master would have given him, now Hektish is going to give him. So that's why the Gemara is going to soon say, what does it have to know? The money he's getting around Hektish somehow. We'll see soon in a minute how he's going to do that. Now the Gemara goes to the parentheses that we left out before, that also Pareya, that he works in order to pay back the loan. Also Pareya, how could he do that? How could he work in order to pay back the loan? As he works, as it comes, right away it becomes hektish, so he wouldn't be able to pay back the loan. The answer is that he works a little at a time, less than a Shabbat doesn't go to hektish, and then that way it goes to the malva. It goes to the one that he borrowed from. At this point, I don't understand why the Gemara has to say the hektish is nichale. Even if hektish is not nichale, he should be able to do this trick. If he works a little bit at a time, why can't he also do this in order to get out of hektish? I'm not sure why. Once the Gemara says that he only can pay back by working less than a Shabbat Pruta, and hektish is not chalam less than a Shabbat Pruta, so how come the Gemara says Dafka hektish is happy about it? Question on the side. So the Gemara got to the Brisa, not to the Brisa again. Rav said that Maktish de Avdo. It seems that he's not supporting him, so it sounds like he could say "Same even is ancha." The Gemara's math Rav doesn't mean that. Rav means you do have to give him food because you can't say "Same is ancha." You take all of his food, you have to give him support. The Rav just meant to say if he wants extra food, there's a way to do it. He has to borrow, but for the minimum food, the master does have to give him. Now the Gemara is going to take it the other way. Till now we had a Rav that sounded superficially it sounded like Rav is the one who says that you could say Hashem Ibn Zancha. We just deflected the proof. Now we're going to go even the other extreme. We're going to say that we have a raya from Rav that he holds you cannot say Hashem Ibn Zancha. First we thought that we had a raya Hashem Ibn Zancha. We just said it's no raya. Now we're going even further. Not only it's no raya, we have another Rav that says that the master cannot say Hashem Ibn Zancha. That's Pshan Rav. That Rav's talking about that he is supporting him, and thus for the extra that the Eved wants, for that it says that he should borrow money, because there's another statement. A different, the same person, but a different statement. Also, all that is the words of Rav. Rav said if somebody consecrated the hands of his Eved Kanani, so that Eved is allowed to eat off of his earnings. He works, but to begin, let's say $10 he needs for his support. The $10 that he gets from his work goes to his own support. If other Rav said that he has to borrow money, how are you going to reconcile the two Ravs? The Rav on the bottom of the page said that also Eved also Pareya. He should borrow money in order to get food and then pay back, like we said, less than a Shabbat Pruta. But the Rav, the same person, Rav said that Eved, that the master consecrated his hands, also Ochel. He does work and he eats off of his work. That means, and he says, because if that's not going to work for himself, who's going to work for him? Like if he's not going to work for himself, who's going to work for him? That was Rav's statement. So you have the two Ravs. If you learn the simple shot in the first Rav that he says "Asaymi v'eni zancha," it would be contradicting himself. This Rav said that he says "Osa but Osa v'ochel" because it also is going to work for him. That means there's a tiny. The Eved says someone has to support me. If you say "Asaymi v'eni zancha," that means no one has to support him. The master can say, "I don't have to support you. I'm taking all of your work, giving it takdish, and I don't have to support you." So the two Ravs will be contradicting. It must be that the first Rav didn't mean the Pashup Shat. The first Rav meant that the master is giving him his own, just giving him minimal, and for the extra rations that he wants, for that he has to borrow money. And the Gemara explains all this. There's hach and ha. Hach means the first Rav, and ha means the second Rav. If you say all is well, that the first statement of Rav is talking about that he's giving him food, and he can't say to him, Asemi v'eni zancha. And the second Rav, is b'she'eno mala, that if he's not giving him food, then Shapir, everything makes sense. The two Ravs could be reconciled. The second Rav said that a master has no right to say Asemi v'eni zancha. He can't say work and I'm not going to support you, and therefore it says that also evet, also bocha. The second Rav says openly that the master cannot take away all the earnings and not give him food. That's what the Rav says. He says also vocal. The Eved eats off of his earnings. And I'll explain the first Rav when he said that he borrows money in order to get food. That's only for the hadaf. It's only for the extra food. But the master over there is giving him food. If you say that the first Rav is talking about that he's not giving him food, and Yochel, he has a right to say Asemi v'eni zancha, then it's going to be a contradiction in the second Rav. The second Rav said, Ilo avdaman polachle, if David doesn't work for himself, who's going to work for him? Manda by niflache. Whoever wants to should. It may not need immediately, whoever wants to. But he has no taina. Means according to Rav, according to this way of looking at it, if he has a right to say Asemi v'eni zancha, the Eved has no taina. The Eved says, who's going to support me? Go to tzedakah. What should I do for you? If the truth is that the Rav has the master has the right to say Asemi v'eni zancha, then the Eved has no taina who's going to support me. That's anybody. Like anybody has no support. What do? You go to tzedakah. So in order to reconcile Rav, it shouldn't be a self-contradiction. He shouldn't contradict himself. We have to say that Rav really meant to say, he cannot say Asemi v'eni zancha. And the case that Rav said he has to borrow in order to get, it's only for the extra. But the master is supporting him. It must be that Rav holds that the master cannot say Asemi v'eni zancha. So far we did prove something. The Gemara went through the Mishnah, the Brises, we couldn't find anything, and then we found Rav that we proved first Rav also didn't sound like that. But after we figured out both Ravs, we came to the conclusion that Rav holds that the master cannot say to the slave Asemi v'eni zancha. He could just say, use your earnings for your work, but he can't say your earnings come to me and I'm not going to support you. But now the tlach means to work. You have the word a little bit today. Pulchan. Pulchan means the service. Oh, we have it. We said it B'Yach Shmei? No? Maybe not.
Man Palachle is
Who's going to work for him?
who's going to work for him.
And now the Gemara is saying it sarcastically. Who's going to work for him? Whoever wants to. It means it's not a taina. The Eved can't come and say a taina. No, you can say you can say
low.
You can say
He's
that.
working like a dog. He's a slave is a slave, and he's still.
So like all the dogs will take to the tzedakah from him. The master says, like, what do you want from me? I'm not obligated. Like, it's
He's
true.
serving him. He's doing him a very big.
So that's a business. That's my business. But now you want to talk about food. So we have tzedakah fund for that. Why should I support you more than anybody else? Is the master obligated to support his
Yeah,
slave?
but everybody else can walk out in the streets free, but he can't.
Okay, because your work was sold. You're an Eved. That's what an Eved is. So the work belongs to me. And 100%
Jewish slave was
is Eved Kanani. Eved Kanani.
No.
Eved Kanani. So you're right that any man, you can talk about someone has a horse. Is he obligated to support him? He's also not obligated to support him. Is it a smart thing to support him? Yeah, because if you want the horse to be alive tomorrow, so you support him. Is the horse going to get tzedakah? Okay, like most people don't do this because their business, like Rabbi Miller says, they made
Business savvy.
business savvy, and they know that if you want a machine to work, you got to put in oil and gasoline. He gives a kick to his car, then he wants it to work. It's not going to work. So it's not a smart thing. But he's talking about technically, are you mechuyev to? I think that a person is not mechuyev to support his horse. He's not mechuyev.
Why are you comparing a horse to a slave?
Because there's a technical thing that he's saying it's a person. So for the people, we have what's tzedakah fund, so go to tzedakah. But you want me to support you? I don't have a chiv to support my property. It's
But
smart.
he's
It's
got the head
smart.
of a slave. The head of a slave that only knows how to. He's not the head of a businessman. The businessman runs to tzedakah.
No, everyone knows to go to
Or
tzedakah. Everyone knows to go.
person has
Everyone
some-
knows to go to tzedakah. He definitely has to give him time to go to tzedakah. Like he has to be able to go to the gavai to get food. He has to give him time to eat.
Okay.
But he's saying mitzad the chiyuv mamoni, the financial obligation that a person has, he's not mechuyev to support a slave. And everybody else there really is not mechuyev. The question is, can he take all the earnings, or he has to deduct the earnings or not? So Rav says, Rav says, the mandama that says that he can't take all the earnings of the slave and say, you have to work for me, I'm not going to support you, and go to tzedakah. Rav says he can't. You have to let him deduct his his support from his earnings, and then the rest goes to the master. But now the Gemara is going to be Avrohom argues. We're going to come out now. There's machlokas Rav and Avrohom. We didn't find a raya from the Mishnah of Brisa, but we did find whatever's good for everybody. Tashma. Now the Muslim being approved that way. Tashma.
He's gonna chop off his thing.
What?
Kote has to chop off.
Hakotea. Tell me, Avrohom, hakotea yad avdo shel chaveiro. If somebody chopped off the hand of another Jewish
Somebody else's
slave, so he has to pay like same way he damaged any Jew, any property, even a horse, he has to pay the payments. Now, of course, there's no sheves and stuff, but he's a eved. Someone chopped off the hand of his fellow man's slave. No saying shifto if it was sold the rabbo, but also eved is a mastaka. The sheves means the amount of unemployment. He's not able to work now. So there's also a din of nezek, how much the person is devalued. That's another point. Now we're talking about the sheves. Shifto, sheves is nezek, tzar, ripui, sheves, boshes. So we're talking about here sheves and ripui. We'll put ripui a second on the side, but it says that the sheves, the amount of time that he can't work, he's out of commission. So usually if he be a free man, it goes to the free man. Besides paying how much he was devalued, also you talk about how much he can't work now. So he needs a month to recuperate. So he's not working for that month. So he gets unemployment.
The hand is not an aver, like the teeth and the eyes.
The master didn't do it. Somebody else did.
Oh, it's maybe-
So he has to pay. No sense shifto or for what's all the rabbi. Here it says that the master, who gets the money? Does the ever get the money, or does the master get the money? So let's talk about shifto. Shifto means unemployment. So that goes to it's the master's loss. He's the one who was working for, and now that he can't work, so the master gets that money. Refuah will come soon. Refuah says sounds like the doctor bills also go to the master. The question is, it goes to the doctor. If you're going to heal him, so then it go to the doctor. That's in parentheses. We'll get
Maybe
to
the
that.
doctor can choose which. I mean, the Baal can choose which doctor to, or what service he can go to Klalit or to go to.
But it says here that
hospital.
the mazik has to pay money for the refuah, and that money goes to the master. The cash is it should go to the doctor. That's what it's for. How do you evaluate refuah? How much it costs to heal him?
Charge to get him in the doctor. In other words, the slave is out of commission. So
So there's a mazik. The
Baal has to
mazik.
go.
The mazik is paying the money. Talking about the mazik who chopped off his hand, he has to pay refuah.
Right.
So he asks him how much does it cost. We find out from Kolit, we find out how much it costs, and mazik has to pay. Now the money goes to the master. It goes to the doctor. So we'll go, I just want to say why we're skipping it. We're just interested in Sheves right now. So the unemployment goes to the master, which makes a lot of sense. Of course, he's the one who lost the unemployment. But also Eved, these are not tzedakah. Here it says that the Eved is going to get supported from tzedakah because here it sounds like all the unemployment, all of the work is going to the master, and therefore there's no money left, and he gets supported from tzedakah. If he'd have to deduct the mazonos, then it wouldn't go to tzedakah. It sounds like Avrohom is saying that when you take the unemployment or the employment, it all goes to the master, and there's no deduction of the food. So Rav Yochanan seems to say that the master could tell to the Eved that all your employment, all your work goes to me, and you have no food, so go to tzedakah. The same it sounds like Rav Yochanan says that the master could say, work for me, I'm not going to support you. The Gemara tries to get out of it. The master does have to give him his onos. If the master gives him his onos, why is he going to tzedakah for? The Gemara tries again the same thing as before. Maybe for the extra, he wants to have more than the minimum, and the master only gives him the minimum. But the Gemara says it doesn't say that. It says nizon. This word nizon, nizon. For the extras, you don't call them mizonos. Mizonos means their sustenance. If it's extras, that if it's for dessert or something like that, a piece of meat, that's not called nizon. Nizon means the basic sustenance. Allah shamino, yachol shamino. The Rav Yochanan holds that a master could say to his Eved, "Say mi ben izancha." So it comes out, Machlokes Rav and Rabbi Yochanan. There was no proof in the Mishnah or the Brises, but Rav says that ain't a yachol, and Rabbi Yochanan says yachol. We paskin like Rabbi Yochanan.
Well, I lost it from the Ichachi, Amayin, Nizon, Minutes, Dakala.
If the master is where are you holding?
Yeah, Ihachi,
Amayin,
Nizon.
Nizon. If so, that the master is supporting him, so why does he go to get money from tzedakah?
Question mark, and the answer is.
The answer is la'adafa, for the extras.
That's what I thought.
He
Okay.
wants to get a piece of meat. Yachi nizon, then the word doesn't make the word nizon is not in place.
Oh.
Misparnas mi boile should have said that he gets parnasa. Parnasa is more than the basics, but nizon means the basics. That sounds like even the basics he goes to tzedakah. That means the master not even giving him
And
basics.
the halach is like Rabbi Yochanan.
Lachs like Rabbi Yochanan. Shlomo lo yachol. So
Well,
machlokes
it
Rav and Rabbi
sounds
Yochanan.
to me that he's got broken, he's got no more leg or no more arm. He's not doing so well to get around to looking for the matzah.
Like any Jew that has a problem, he'll go to the right agency.
He
Or
is
people will
able to say to
or the people will come to him. Like any kind of.
I
person
mean,
that
he
needs it.
is able to say to him, go.
Yeah, I say mi ben izancha. If Rabbi Yochanan hold, the Yochanan. So it's not a raya from a Brisa or Mishnah, but before the Gemara successfully proved that Rav holds Eina Yachol, that was the Gemara before. Shramina Eina Yachol Shramina, and this Gemara is Shramina Yachol Shramina. So Rav holds Eina Yachol, and Rabbi Yochanan holds Yachol, and he passes like a Yochanan against Rav, and therefore the halacha is that the master could say to the slave, "I say mi ben izancha." Again, it's not smart, it's not business savvy. But he may technically. I say me ve'eni zamcha. Go to the beginning of the sugya. Here it is.
You work for me and you get your own food.
Right. Work for me, and I'm not going to support you.
I'm not going to.
And we pass like that. That the master could technically say, "You owe all your money to me, but I'm not going."
Tell his donkey and go work for me. I'm not gonna.
And everyone supports their donkeys because they want to have the donkey tomorrow, a strong donkey. So you serve. But Rabbi Victor Miller used to say also that the slave Abraham Lincoln feed the slaves. They said he did a very big injustice.
The what? Who did?
Abraham Lincoln
Did
that he
an
freed-
injustice?
that he freed the slaves.
Oh,
But
there was
Miller
an
says
injustice?
the slaves were doing much better off when they were slaves. So then he says, he said there are books written about it that the slaves did better off when they were slaves. So then you have books, you have stories about the master was so cruel and this. He said, would a person do that to his donkey? So of course, there's a Meshuggah here and there that he beats up his donkey. We saw such the Meshuggah that they beat. But a person, you have a field, say you're going to starve the field. Anybody that's invested in a slave, which was very expensive, so they supported them. They took good care of them, and they had a good life. They worked during the day in the plantation, and then at night they didn't overwork them. They wanted them to work the next day also. Like any kind of machine you have, you don't overwork it. So he said that the stories they make up are not necessarily. I didn't do any research. I was telling you what Rabbi Miller said. But his point was to say, what?
I heard that from
It doesn't seem to be true because they were kidnapped, and at least in America, they were kidnapped and brought over.
But again, why somebody just to be what's the word? To be cruel. What is that called? Sadistic. What the people they let's say they stole donkeys, they stole horses, so they're gonna starve them. They want them to be able to work. Some kind of field. He wants to be able to get out for his even if he didn't buy it, it wasn't so expensive. But he wanted it to be able to be an investment. It's time to trouble them.
And the Rebbe remind me that we learned that Baal has to give his cushion if he's got.
As evidivy.
Oh, that's only evidivy. There's no one.
Evidivy. Yeah. And a little bit more. Or should we stop already? Whatever everybody like at this point. What? So we'll do a little bit more. Back to the Mishnah. So I said in the Mishnah Machlokes, if it's considered a detriment to the Eved to be sleeps, to be free. The woman is surely considered detrimental because she loses Parnasa. But we just finished the Sugya that the Eved doesn't lose Parnasa because he didn't have Parnasa even when he was a slave. And we come out of Rabbi Yochanan, he didn't say ben izancha. So the fact that the master freed him didn't make him worse off. So therefore, the Rabbanan say that it's supposed to get freed, and the shliach is able to be zocha, and then the master wouldn't be able to retract anymore. Tanya, Rabbi Lazar. We learned to the Brisa. Rabbi Lazar said, "Aman lo the mayor."
I'm sorry, you did this whole thing about the refuah?
Did I skip?
Yeah,
Oh, I skipped
think
the
you
whole, I
skipped
skipped the
it.
parentheses. You're right. Thank you. I skipped. I made a parentheses and then I skipped it. I'm a man. This is about the refuah over here. No, this is about Chaim David was talking about the refuah.
Yeah.
No sense shift to refuah Rabbo. The unemployment and the doctor, the medical bills go to the master. So shifta, first of all, shifta pshita. It's partially goes to the master, the unemployment, because that goes to the master. That's where it belongs. But someone says you're right. It's refuah shichalei. The chiddush is that the medical bills go to the master, and the Gemara doesn't understand that. Refuah day, the medical bills go to the doctor. That's what it's for. To go to the pay for the healing. The answer is the boy. Oh, sorry. Before the day, the boy it should go to the slave because he has to heal himself with that money. So why is it going to the master?
It should go to the slave, in other words.
Yes, but it means it goes to the slave. It's not to go to the
Pay
doctor,
for refuah.
right? So why does the master get that? So the Gemara says of Pshat, that healing process would have taken 5 days, and it would have been an easier, more comfortable healing process. But they did some kind of stronger medicine, and he got healed in 3 days, but it was on the cheshbon of the slave. You might think that he suffered so he got healed in 3 days. It only cost 3 days of treatment, but it was a more difficult,
More painful.
painful. So you might think that at least the ever should get that. The mashmallah that also goes to the master because he got healed. He got healed, and now the extra money that was paid for a 5-day treatment, the extra money goes to the master. Back to the
So when
Mishnah.
it says refuah, it means if it's a cheaper refuah.
They're getting it, huh?
Right.
go to
If
the
he was able to get a cheaper refuah and the money came in, the money came for the regular refuah, and he got a cheaper, but it's more difficult, the master gets that extra money. Like it will be his animal, like the veterinarian. He pays for the veterinarian, and then the veterinarian does a faster thing that was more painful for the animal. That it still belongs to the master. Again, we're not saying that these masters are, they're talking about the technical zchuyot that he has. Now, if he wants his ever to work well and not to be pained and not to be cruel, so
Work nicely.
yeah. A lot of times the master did the good things for the Eved because they should have motivation to work well.
But it also could be,
Go ahead.
the court figures out how much the refuah should be.
Right.
And
Court
now they
figures out
figured it
what the
out
doctor
and they
does.
say this is what you have to pay him, and then he gets paid, and then
He goes-
he finds a cheaper doctor, could also,
Right.
although they don't say it like that, they say.
He finds a cheaper doctor. Oh, he's saying the same thing.
I'm
Either
saying
a
the same
cheaper
thing, but
doctor,
it's
but then
cheaper.
then maybe there's no havamina that it goes to the slave. If there's no difference, that you got it for cheaper, so then surely it goes to the master. I would think maybe it goes back to the mazik. That doesn't go back to the mazik. But if someone was able to do it for cheaper, so surely it goes to the master. But here's a chiddush that even though the slave underwent pain,
He got healed faster.
but it was more
Yeah,
painful.
more
It
painful.
Mhm.
was more painful. He
It
could
was
have
more
healed, whatever. The 5-day treatment was easier than this 3-day treatment.
But the refuah, if it was $10,000 for the operation, or something,
Right.
and normally that takes a week, and he recovered in 4 days. So we're
The
talking-
chiddush is that he used a treatment which was more painful. The rest it wouldn't be a chiddush. If you got a cheaper doctor or something happened that it went faster than usual, there's no chiddush that goes to the master.
Okay. He got a refuah that was more painful
Painful.
and faster.
The
But then in terms of the money's gonna go to that guy.
Anesthesiologist.
didn't come. And they went through it, they did it anyway. So they saved on the anesthesia. So then the master would get the money. He got healed, he got healed.
That's pretty good.
In terms of the
just
money,
need
what
more
I'm having
treatments
problems
and
with
so
is the
forth.
money is gonna go for the refuah anyway.
But they didn't need it for the food was cheaper. Why was it cheaper? Because they didn't pay for anesthesia.
Right.
Your case also, if you got a cheaper doctor also, or if he miraculously got healed in 3 days instead of 5 days, all that the master gets the money.
Oh, I see. You mean like maybe the doctor would be paying the doctor to be there for another number of days or something.
And now it's not going to cost so
And now
much.
it's-
I'm just surprised that it doesn't go back to the mazik. We told the mazik it didn't cost so much. How come he doesn't get a refund? That the Gemara doesn't talk about. The Gemara this discussion goes to everything goes to the master.
Okay.
Okay, the Gemara continues. Tanya, Amar Abdullah Zama. So this is a discussion if it's considered a detriment for the Ebed or not. The one say that it's considered a source for the Ebed to get liberated because it wouldn't get food anyway.
So for the other to do what?
To get freed, He got
It's
liberated
excuse for him to get.
because he doesn't lose anything. He doesn't lose food. He didn't get food even when he was a
Yeah.
slave.
Okay.
And that's what Abelazar says. We told to a mayor, Amman the mayor, because he was his friend, Rashi, they were colleagues, so he calls him mayor. We would call him Rab Mayor. It's a benefit to get freed. Amalanu, the mayor said to us, it's a detriment to get freed. Shema Evet Kohen, Truma. Because you're right, even as far as we go to the Mishnah, now we're elaborating.
Okay.
That as far as the Mizonos, you're right, that he didn't get food, he didn't have to get food, he was an Evet either. But he does lose out on Truma, because in the case of Evet Kohen, only in this case, Chaim David asked that by Israel is different, we'll see that soon. But if it's the master was a Kohen, and now we got freed, so the Evet loses out, that he can't get Truma. Till now he could have gotten Truma, even if the master is not going to support him, but he can go to somebody else and get, he got from Tzedakah, he can get Truma. The Kohen will give Truma, you're an Evet Kohen, I'll give you Truma. And now he's not eligible for Truma anymore when he's free. So he loses out on the schus to eat Truma.
Is it a spiritual spus or?
No, it's money. It's money. It's easier to get food
It's easier to get truma.
than to get,
Truma's cheaper.
and he'll get it. And now he can't get it anymore. People give him a half a loaf of chulin and a whole loaf of Truma.
I see.
And now he can't get that anymore. Amanu lo. So we said back to him, he doesn't have to support him, even if he's an Eved, which doesn't answer the question. The Gemara is going to bother that the Brisa doesn't make sense. The Rabbi said that he loses Truma. So they said, but he doesn't lose support. That wasn't the question. The Rabbi's point was that even if he doesn't have to support him, but he's not a schos to Truma. So the Brisa needs explanation. Amalanu, Rabbi said back to us, back to the Chachamim, Uma ilu evet kohen sheborach, ve'eshes kohen shemorda al baila, halo ochelin b'truma. V'zeh eino ochel. Evet Kohen, if he ran away from his master, he's still Evet Kohen. And the wife of a Kohen who rebelled against her husband and left, yes, as long as he's the Evet Kohen, as long as she's the Eshes Kohen, she has the right to Truma. He has the right to eat Truma. And now that he's not going to be anymore the Evet Kohen, he's going to lose out on the Truma. So Meir is again saying the same thing over. The Chor is saying the same thing over again, that he, by getting liberated, he's losing the schos to eat Truma. So it is a detriment. Rabbanan say it's not a detriment because he doesn't have to support him. But the mayor keeps on saying back, but Truma, he loses Truma. Avalisha chov hula shekain poslam in Truma, umavsidim in Amazonos. Who's talking?
The woman, even if she rebels, works still.
She still gets Truma.
Hula shekain.
Avalisha chov hula, and chov hula, she gets as a detriment. She can post them in a truma. By woman for sure it's a chov. That's no question. Everybody knows that woman is a chov because she loses truma and she also loses mazonos. So I think it's not a question. I'm not reading it exactly over here. Everyone agrees to this. That
she's not the rebellion. She got divorced, right?
It's a detriment to get divorced because as long as she's married, she's allowed to eat truma and also husband has to support her. So once she gets divorced, he doesn't have to support her and she doesn't eat truma. So that's surely considered a chov. But the question is about an eved. That's the end of the Brisa, and the Gemara doesn't understand because Rav Meir is talking about Truma and they're talking about Mazonos, so they're talking the same language. And they didn't explain, Rabban didn't explain why is it considered detrimental as chus. Why is it considered as chus for never to be liberated? He loses Truma. Rav Meir is asking a good question. He loses Truma. So it should be considered a detriment. Why do Rabban say that as a chus? My Kamul,
I'm missing a point. What about the fact that he can go out and now work for his own living?
If there's some detriment, then it's considered a chol. Even if it's 90% good, but if something's losing, so you can't do it. You have to ask him if he wants. If there's any detriment, so then you can't be zochel for him. Maybe he doesn't want. Maybe it's worth him to be an eved and to get supported. It's worth him to be an eved and to get truma. So now the one wants to know what's around the brisa. What did they say to him? What did he answer? What's shakal b'tarya? He talks about truma. They talk about mazonos. The Gemara explains this is what he said to them. You said mazonos that he would that mazonos is not considered a detriment to lose mazonos because even while he was an eved, they didn't have to give him mazonos. Good, you answered me. But I'm asking you still about truma. That's what Meir is asking. That truma he does lose by getting liberated because now he loses truma. You might say that it's not considered a detriment to be liberated because he could have liberated him against his will anyway. Forget about the shliach. The master is it considered a detriment for the eved to get liberated? So you might say, yes, You might say no, because the master could have done it anyway. The master doesn't need anybody to agree. He could go to the Eved and throw him the get, and he'd be liberated, he loses Truma. So now that he gave it to the Shliach, it's not considered a loss to become, he's not losing anything by Shliach being Zocha, because the master could have done it anyway, could have thrown it straight to him. But the Gemara says no. You might say, the Rabbanan will say back, Shabbat Klei, V'Orik, V'Chi, says back. If you're going to say that, it's not considered a detriment because the master could have gotten possible for Truma anyway. No, the Eved, he wants to be eligible to eat Truma. So he'll run away. When he sees the master coming with a liberation document, he'll run away. That he should be able to get it when it is Dalanamas.
What's the Shavi?
She'll leave him, the Orik, and he'll run away. But Azal Alma, go someplace else. Means the Eved would rather be Eved Shabarach. The Eved will run away, and therefore, even though the master is not supporting him, but he'll be able to eat Truma. He's a from Eved. He's not going to eat Truma if he's not allowed to, but he's the Eved Kohen, and he's allowed to eat Truma.
He likes his status quo.
He likes the status of being Eved Kohen, and he'll get Truma that way. Go to the shuk and be able to get.
That's Rabbi Meir.
That's Rabbi Meir, and that's why he says, "Uma ilu Eved Kohen sheborach ve'eshes Kohen shemor dal baila hala ochlim betruma v'zeina ochel." That he's explaining himself that an Eved Kohen, even if he runs away, he still has the right to eat Truma. And nowadays he's going to get shech, where he's not going to be able to eat Truma. So it's considered a detriment. That's the end of the Bryson. Now,
Where's it?
I thought we ended.
we ended. Now we explained. We ended the explanation. Now you're right. We had the text, and now we explained what they're talking about. That Rameir said that you explained why losing support is not considered a detriment because he didn't have to be supported even in his slavehood, but it's a loss to be able to not to be able to eat Truma. And don't tell me that the master could have thrown a get. He would have run away, that he shouldn't be able to throw it to him. And now the shliach is going to be zocha for him. He doesn't want. He wants to be an Eved Kohen in order to be able to eat Truma. And this person who's liberated is not able to eat.
Yeah.
So it's a detriment. And that the Brisa didn't go further to explain what the Rabbanan are going to answer. And now the Gemara takes over. Shaper Kamalahu. But Meir says good time that he's losing Truma. So Rabbi says that's what the Rabbanan meant to answer in the Mishnah. The Mishnah says, "Lifnei Kinyano." That's what the Mishnah says. The Mishnah says an answer to Rabbi Meir. You're asking that he loses out Truma. That's because he's his property. It means as long as he's the property of the Kohen, he has the right to eat Truma. Once he's not the property of the Kohen, he's not allowed to eat Truma. Which doesn't answer the question. That was the question. That now there's not going to be property of the Kohen. He's going to lose Truma. So what's the difference if it's direct, indirect? Like he's losing Truma. So the Mishnah, we had difficulty. And now the Gemara is going to explain the Mishnah. This is what the Rabbanan meant to answer. The kasha was that you're making him lose Truma, which he would have not lost. And even if he would have thrown and get Shechra, the Evan would have thrown away that he shouldn't be able to throw it to him. What does that mean? There's a way that the master can make him puzzle from Truma, no matter where he is. First, Rameir thought that he has to chase after him in order to throw him to get Shechra. So Rameir says, the get will run away. The Eved will run away. You won't be able to catch him. You won't be able to get in his Daladamas. So it is a detriment to Izocha. So Rabbanan say no. That the master has a way to make him puzzle from Tumah wherever he is. How's that? He can sell him to a Yisrael. The Eved went away to Honolulu, but the master could go to his next door neighbor Yisrael and say, "Give me a couple of prutos, and I'll sell you my Eved." And now the Eved, wherever he is going to be a Eved of a Yisrael, and he doesn't have the right to eat Truma anymore. So the master doesn't have to run any place. The master doesn't have to run. He could.
But how's he going to let him know that?
That's his problem. But it means that you want to know if the master has a way to passel him. The master has a way to passel him besides liberating him. He could passel him by selling him. So the Eved can't say. So the Eved has no time. That it would have been better off if I would have been a slave and I wouldn't have been liberated. Even the Truma is not a time because the master could have disqualified him from Truma also. Well, the Meir. Oh, now comes Chaim Dov's question. We finished already the discussion of the mission of the Brisa. Well, the Meir Tenech Eved Kohen, Eved Yisrael Michael Amema. This whole thing about why it's considered a detriment is only by the slave of a Kohen that he was able to eat Truma. But if Eved Yisrael, he just benefits from being liberated. That's a kasha that the Meir doesn't explain himself. There's another thing that he loses. That while he's an Eved Kanani, he's allowed to have relations with the Shifcha Kananis. An Eved Kanani marries a Shifcha Kananis. But once he's free, he's not allowed to marry Shifcha Kananis anymore. So he loses out. The kasha is other Rabba. On the contrary, he gains. Now he's allowed to marry a Baschorin. That till now, he was not allowed to marry a regular Jewish girl, and now he's allowed to. So why is it considered a detriment to become liberated? The answer is Avda b'Hafkera Nichale. A Eved likes more Hafkeras. Zilale, Shchichale, Pritzale. He likes, means the woman, the Eved Kananis, she's a lowly status. The Bas Horin, she's aristocratic. She's a Jewish girl, so she doesn't. The Eved enjoys more a prutza than a aristocratic wife. He'd like to have a shifcha. He enjoys the shifcha better. Zilale lashon of zol. She's cheap and she's often as much as he wants. She's there and she's a prutza. He likes all that. And shchicha is available. Yeah. She's cheap and she's available. Cheap, not money. But she likes Zol, she acts cheaply, and she's usual, and she's a prutza, and that's what he wants. So the Eved, Kanani, if a regular Jew doesn't want that. A regular Jew, he's aristocratic, and he wants an aristocratic wife also. And they live on a higher level, but more noble, more nobility. But he doesn't want nobility, he wants lowliness. So Rameir says that it's considered a detriment for the Eved of Yisrael also to be free. He doesn't want liberation. So therefore Rameir says that you can't be Zocha Bal Koch. The Rabbanan say not. The Rabbanan say that it's considered a benefit to be free. But Meir says he'd rather have a Shifcha Kananis than remove the Bas Chorin. And therefore you can't free him. You could free him against his will, but you can't make a shliach. It's considered a chov. Ein chav l'adam shlo b'panav. And the Rabbanan say that it's considered a benefit for Eved to be liberated, and you could be Zocha, and therefore the master cannot return. Yachiko Chachem.
So
Thank you.
benefit. So what does Rabbi Miller say?